Today, we're diving into a scientific mystery, one that could literally rewrite what we know about life itself. And the central question is, well, it's a huge one. What if there's a hidden force out there, actively guiding the building blocks of life? A force that, get this, scientists have just proven actually exists. I want you to just think for a second about what's happening inside every single one of your cells right now. It's like this chaotic, microscopic city just jam-packed with molecules, and all of them have to find their one specific partner to do their job. The big mystery for decades has been, how on earth do they do it so fast? Well, it turns out science has a brand new and honestly revolutionary explanation. A groundbreaking experiment just delivered the first ever direct proof of an invisible, long-range force that is literally pulling these molecules together. Okay, so to really get why this is such a game changer, we first got to understand the problem they were trying to solve. Let's dive into what's happening on a cell's incredibly crowded commute. And when I say crowded, I mean it. Check this out. At any given moment, just one of your cells is dealing with about 130,000 potential protein hookups. That's not just traffic, that's absolute molecular chaos. You know, for years, the textbook answer was basically random luck. The theory was that these molecules are just on a drunken walk, a process called Brownian diffusion. They just wander around aimlessly until, bump, they accidentally run into the right partner. But here's the problem with that. In the soupy, crowded mess inside a cell, a random walk would be incredibly slow. Think about it. It'd be like trying to find your friend in a packed football stadium by just wandering around with your eyes closed. The odds aren't great, right? It just doesn't explain the lightning speed of biology. So this sets up the big showdown, right? On one side, you've got the old idea, random chance, slow, clumsy bumps. On the other side, this new, kind of radical idea. What if it's not random at all? What if there's a guiding force, an invisible pull that specifically yanks the right molecules toward each other, even from a distance? All right, let's talk about this invisible pull, because here's the thing. Physicists have been saying a force like this should exist for decades, but no one had ever actually seen it. Until now. Okay, so this force has a pretty fancy name, resonant electrodynamic forces, but the idea behind it is actually beautiful. Imagine you give a molecule a little zap of energy. It starts vibrating or humming at a very specific frequency. That hum creates an energy field around it that calls out to other molecules that are humming at the exact same frequency. It's kind of like tuning forks. You strike one, and its perfect match across the room starts vibrating too, without even being touched. And you can see the idea right here. These humming molecules create their own little force field, warping the space around them and pulling their partners in. So, yeah, they're not just randomly bumping around anymore. They're being actively drawn together. And the scientists behind this knew just how huge this was. They basically said, look, if we can prove this force exists, it's not just some small update to a textbook. This could completely change our understanding of how the actual machinery of life works. But, you know, a beautiful theory is one thing. Proving it is a whole other beast. The big question was, how in the world do you prove an invisible force actually exists? Their plan was genius, really. A two-part investigation. First, they were going to track how the molecules move. They used a technique that's basically a microscopic radar gun. The idea was, if this force is real, and we zap the molecules with energy, they should slow down and start clustering together. For part two, they were going to listen to their vibrations. They had another tool to measure tiny shifts in energy, and the prediction here was that as the molecules got closer, their humming frequency should change in a specific way. So two totally different tests, both looking for the same thing. So, what happened? Well, the results were just incredible. They didn't just find one smoking gun, they found two. And both were pointing at the exact same mind-blowing conclusion. Okay, first up, the movement test. They took these proteins, zapped them with a laser to get them vibrating, and watched. And bingo. Just like the theory said, the second those proteins were energized, their speed just tanked. They went from zipping all over the place to practically crawling. So why'd they slow down? It's because they weren't alone anymore. The researchers looked through the microscope and saw it happening live. The individual proteins were being pulled together, forming these big, visible clumps. The invisible force was literally grabbing them. And here's the really cool part. This wasn't a shock to them. Their computer models had predicted this exact thing would happen. You can see the prediction on the left, with the molecules all scattered. Then on the right, the prediction for when the force is on. It was a perfect match for what they were seeing in real life. Unbelievable. Okay, so that's smoking gun number 1, but they needed the second piece of the puzzle. They had to listen to those vibrations. Now remember the prediction? If these molecules are really feeling each other from far away, then their humming frequencies should change as they get more crowded together. The more concentrated they are, the bigger the shift. And you guessed it, the results were another perfect match. I mean, just look at this chart. As they packed more proteins in, that's the bottom line, the vibration frequencies shifted up in an almost perfect straight line. It's exactly what you'd expect to see. This was it, the second smoking gun. Totally independent proof that these molecules were interacting from a distance. So there you have it. 2 different experiments, 2 different pieces of evidence, all pointing to the exact same conclusion. It really feels like biology is about to turn the page on a brand new chapter. So what's the big takeaway here? Why does this matter so much? Well, first, we've just seen what looks like a new, fundamental force of life observed for the very first time. This could be the missing piece that explains the sheer speed and efficiency of life. It completely challenges that old drunken walk idea. And because they saw it in 2 different kinds of proteins, it suggests this is happening all over the place. The potential here is just massive. Think smarter drug design, or maybe even controlling cells with a flick of a light switch. You know, the researchers themselves put it perfectly. They said that life is smart, it uses every tool it can. And it's exciting to think that life has probably been using this hidden force for billions of years to get an edge. It's been there the whole time. We just finally figured out how to see it. And that just leaves us with one last kind of mind-bending question. If a force of nature this fundamental has been hiding in plain sight all this time, what else have we been missing? What other huge secrets is life still keeping from us?